Good days, DIYer. The rain here in my area is stop and go, but today my plan is to do the front and the rear knuckles. Okay, after working on the passenger side's rear knuckle and the passenger side front knuckles, this is how it looked like now. It has new lower ball joint, new hub, and a new bearings as well. And then this is the driver's side that I need to do. I'll be replacing the hub, the bearings, and the lower ball joint too. And we're using Master Pro as our lower ball joints, and then a Doorman clip for the bearing. And then we also have the front hub. This is a new front hub and a bearing as well. And then this is the rear knuckle. After I refurbished it, I also painted this dust cover, but for the front I will be eliminating the dust cover, so I'm gonna be removing this one too. So this is the front. It has new hub and also new lower ball joint, and this is the old hub for the rear. I will be showing you how to replace the hubs in the rear first, and then later we're gonna be doing the fronts. For this particular job, you might need a couple of tools, like your sledgehammer, brush for cleaning up, long nose pliers. You also need snap ring pliers, 32 millimeters sockets, some screwdrivers, breaker bar, 14 and a 10 millimeter socket, your supply, which is the rear hub, the rear lower ball joint, grease, preferably high temp. You can use the Valvoline one or the Honda, and several adapters for our bearing press. That's for the front, and this one is for the ball joint press. And it will be really helpful if you also have a power tool and a pair of vice grips too. We will be working on the rear knuckle first. So in order for us to remove the hub, you need to remove this small cover. So you want to use a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. After removing the dust shield, now we want to remove this 32 millimeter nut. And now we can remove this 32 millimeter nuts. After removing the nut, now you can just pull the entire hub assembly. And this is our old rear hub. And then now we want to remove 4 of the 10 millimeters on this dust shield. After removing the 4 10 millimeters, now we can just lift the dust shield up. And here you go. In order for us to be able to remove this lower ball joint, we need to remove 4 of the 14 millimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can take this spindle out. And then you just want to use your sledgehammer to separate this spindle to the knuckle. And then now what we want to do is to remove this lower ball joint. Okay, after driving the lower ball joint out with the sledgehammer, then you will be able to remove this one out. What I want to do now is to remove some of the surface rust using a wire brush. And then after that, if you want to spray it with a light coat of paint, that's a good idea too. And that's what I'm about to do now. And let it dry. Then you can just clean your overspray with just brake cleaner. And now we're ready to install our new lower ball joint. Before you install your lower ball joint, make sure that the hole where the ball joint is going is totally clean. Now you want to use super high temp grease. You can use Honda, or you can also use this guy right here. This is the one that I'll be using. Normally I remove the boot, but for this installation I will not remove this one. You can just add grease on the boot so it will slide a little bit easier, and some here at the body. Okay, now for this setup for the ball joint press, you need this one, the one that has a deep cup, and the clamp with the threaded rod. So the way I will do this is just by putting this cup here at the bottom. To make this one level, you want to use your block of wood going here at the bottom. There you go. And then now we're using a 22mm. For this one, we will be cranking this one just by hand for now. Then once everything is snug, now we're gonna be using our impact gun. And then now our lower ball joint is now installed. Then now after installing the lower ball joint, the next thing that we're gonna be putting is this carrier. And you have 4 14mm nuts at the back. Now once that's installed, the next thing that we want to put in is our dust shield. But before I put this one in, I will clean this one up too, and probably hit it with a little bit of paint too. Then just let it dry. And now we'll be installing the dust shield. The dust shield is held by 4 10mm bolts. After installing those 4 bolts, now what we want to do is to make sure that the shaft on this one is totally clean. And then you want to add grease in this entire shaft. As far as our rear hub, you also want to add grease inside. And then now we're ready to install this rear hub. So this one will just go straight in. And then you don't want to force it. You just want to shake it a little bit until it slides down. And then we're gonna put back our 32mm nut. You hit this one again to make an indentation so it won't back out by itself. And then now you just want to put back this bearing cover. And then you just want to tap it lightly. And now this is our finished rear hub. New lower ball joint. And now this is our front knuckle. This one is a little bit different than the rear one. The rear one is a little bit easier. First thing that we want to do with this one is to drive out this old hub. So I will be using a small extension and a 24mm. So I can just put this one straight here. And this is where I'm gonna hit it with the sledgehammer to drive the hub out. Okay, I will be using this jack stand to place this arm here, and then this the extension and the 24mm that's going in there. Now we just hit it with the sledgehammer. And now the old hub is out. After removing the old hub, now we can remove this 3 Phillips screw heads. And this one, I'm not using it anymore. Okay, now that we remove the dust shield here at the front, we have this C-clip here that is all rusted. Now you just want to take a flat screwdriver and try to knock it out. Oh, this one is really hard. Doesn't even want to move. Okay, the only thing that is moving is the very end, so I might have to do this one the hard way. You need to put a screwdriver here on the side and then try to pry it until it's out. It's really hard. You need a new one whenever you're doing a new wheel bearing. And then now the only thing that we need to do is to drive this bearing out. Now I will just be using one of the adapters that I have for the bearing press, and then this I will put it here behind, just like that. Then I will start hitting this with the sledgehammer. And then eventually the bearing will just fall out. And now, since we're already here, I would like to remove the lower ball joint too. Once you remove the rubber, you just want to hit it here on this outer ring. And then once the ball joint already moved a little bit, then now you can hit it here at the threaded end. There you go. That's our old lower ball joint. And now we're about to install the lower ball joint. First thing that you want to do is to add grease to this hole where the ball joint goes in. Then you also add grease on this the body of the ball joint and into this rubber boot so it could slide easier. And then now you want to insert this one like so. Now you want to get your ball joint press and a dip cup. Once you got this one lined up like that, you can use your power tool or you can use a 22mm to tighten this one up. And that's it. And then I will just place the cotter pin here so I won't lose it. Okay, so our lower ball joint is already in. The next thing that we're gonna be putting in is the wheel bearing. Before we insert our new wheel bearing, we'll just clean this one up real quick. After cleaning up where the bearing is going in, the next thing that you want to do is to add grease. And then before we insert the bearing, want to make sure to add grease in this outside too. And then now we are using our bearing press. For this application, you want something that is exactly the same size as the outer lip of the bearing, like this one. So this is the one that we're going to be using to press it in. And then this one will be sitting at the back. Remove this one really quick. So basically you want something to be against this back side. And then now we'll just insert this in. Then the next thing that we're going to be putting in would be the bearing. And then this guy. And then washer. And then the nut. And then eventually you'll have a setup like this. Now we're ready to use our 32mm dip socket and the other one to stop the nut from spinning here at the back. Okay, I had to move this one here in the floor because my table is kind of flimsy. And then once it's all in, it will stop. The next thing that we want to do is to add this security clip, and then make sure that the security clip is sitting all to the grooves. And then now the next thing that we're going to be installing is the actual hub. Before you install the hub, you want to make sure to find a correct size. So this is the exact one. So basically you want this one coming from under, and it only stops this outer part of the inner race. And then now you just want to add grease. To use the dust shield, now is the right time to put it in before you put this hub. But if you're not using the dust shield like myself, then this one can go straight now here. So basically you want the back side only stopping this part of the inner bearing, because if you go a little bit farther, then the inner race might be pulled out. So you just want it like that. Next thing that you want to put is your hub, and then this one we'll just use it as a spacer. And then your washer, and then your 32mm nut. So that will be your setup. So just like what we did earlier, you want another 32mm here at the back side, and then you can use your dip socket 32mm to tighten up this side. You can use power tools, but I also want to show that you can also do it manually. Then you just want to go slow. Then now our front hub is complete. So we already got our new wheel bearing in, our new hub, and our new lower ball joint. Okay, now both of our front knuckles and both of our rear knuckles are already refurbished. The next thing that we're going to be doing is to install everything in the car, including all the suspension. And then after installing all of the suspension component of our Honda Prelude, thank you to all the subscribers. Stay tuned for more updates with this Honda Prelude. All right, keep DIYing.